Well, folks, it finally happened. Final Fantasy XVI has dropped its first of its two upcoming DLCs. First was Echoes of the Fallen, with its second one coming sometime in spring 2024. And I just wrapped up the full package for the first DLC, and I gotta say, it was a lot of fun. Now, going into this, I was a teeny bit worried. I admit that, considering the whole DLC was like only $10, $25 if you bought the whole pack, but I just bought the first one. So I went in with my expectations kind of tempered, and I gotta say, I'm pretty happy to be proven wrong. So what's it like, you ask? Well, how about we get into that? Also, since this DLC is pretty short, I'm going to change up how we do this review and just make quick transitions instead of just using the cutaway cards like we do for all the others. With that started, let's get into the pros of this DLC, shall we? So, how about we get into the very first thing about this whole DLC? What the hell is it even about? Well, you see, Echoes of the Fallen actually focuses on a side quest that Sharon introduces to you, where she hands Clive a strange new type of crystal that's a much darker shade than the others you've seen and destroyed before. These new crystals, which everyone just labels as dusk crystals, are revealed to be tied to the Fallen, the people who tried to chase divinity and Ultima wiped them out as a result. And frankly, it was honestly pretty damn cool to get to not only learn more about this world's history, but see firsthand just how close your ancestors were to reaching something like Ultima's level. And it gives you much more understanding as to why Ultima chose to wipe them all out. As you travel through the incredible looking new area I like to call the Fallen's Tower. It has an actual name, but Fallen's Tower, just, you gotta admit, that sounds so cool. You get to see just how impressive they all were. From a sentient tower that's actively able to identify threats, to insanely powerful experimental monster crystal hybrids, to a giant fucking robotic weapon that's honestly one of the best fights in the entire fucking game. Everything about this section just works so damn well. Of course, new battles, area, and lore are not the only things that are new to this DLC, as you also obtain new weapons and accessories as well, all of which are tied to, you guessed it, the Fallen. And I'm very happy to say that all of them are quite useful. They all feel great to use when tied into the combat system that is already fantastic on its own, which only feels even better due to just how good this DLC is by making the boss fights more challenging than the main stories. Which is good, because honestly, if you haven't seen it yet, my review, one of my criticisms was that the game was too easy, so having these bosses be more challenging added a nice thing to see. With all of the praises I've given the DLC so far, I'm certain you're asking yourself, God, Crimson, why are you such a damn Giga Chat, right? Oh, you're not? You're asking if this DLC has any flaws? Okay, fine, we'll talk about those. So, despite the praise I've given this DLC, I do admit I have a couple of issues with it overall. First off is how you unlock it. Now, in order to even unlock the DLC, you have to not only reach the very last level of the game, but you also have to complete the side quests Phoenix Heal Thyself, When There's a Will, and Priceless all before you can do it. Which, I'm gonna be real here, is kind of a dick move. Like, imagine if someone beat the entire game and then they learned because they didn't save right before Ultima's true final battle. They now had to play through essentially over 30 hours of content in order to get to this 5-hour DLC. No matter how much fun it is, that's still way more of a time sink than I think is needed for just one DLC, and I was hoping that it would be more of a, you just pick it on the front, or they'd add in some chapter selects with it. You know, so that way you didn't have to constantly just completely run through everything again. But to be honest, that also kind of puts it at a conundrum, because unless you're at the very end of the game, you can't really do the DLC. Because, well, plain and simple, you wouldn't know what the fuck is going on. This is very much tied to heavy endgame stuff. So this isn't really going to be a huge criticism against the game, and it's more of a nitpick than anything else. And honestly, that's pretty much it for cons. I could call out the length, but I'd say it's perfectly fine for a $10 purchase. If you're getting 3 to 5 hours, you're paying $10 for that. So let's move on to my final thoughts. That pretty much just wraps up everything, to be honest. The first of Final Fantasy XVI's DLC was just a good time, plain and simple. Is this DLC some goated product that will change the minds of all of the people who hated 16? Will their third eye awaken and they'll enjoy it as well? No! If you are not a fan of Final Fantasy XVI, do not get this DLC. This is very much more of the same with little to no changes in its gameplay whatsoever. This is a DLC for fans only. It'll be a blast for people who love the original game, but if you didn't like 16, send those $10 elsewhere, like a nice drink at a bar or something, or give it to a worker at a store. Trust me, this isn't going to change your mind if you didn't like 16. This is just more of 16 for people who liked it. My guess is there may be some gameplay changes with the second DLC, but we'll see about that. And that's all for the video. Sorry if this is a bit short in comparison to my other reviews. I'm not very much used to reviewing DLC, and I do plan to do another review of the second one when it releases. Maybe use that time to look back on this one as well and see how it stacks up. Who knows? If you liked this, do me a favor and like and sub down below. Expect another video later this week. That's all, folks. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.